Hello, this is going to be a quick video about how to use Simulation Craft to sim your character. More specifically, how I use it. There are multiple ways to use it, but if you've never used it before, I think this will probably be a good way to get you started. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually go and grab Simulation Craft, and you can do that from here. This is simulationcraft.org/download, whatever. Go to the nightly builds, and then select the one that is appropriate for you. You want 902-01, so either Win64 or Mac or Win32, whichever version is best for you. Most likely, you are going to be using the Win64 version. After you do that, extract the program. It is a 7-zip file, so you will need either WinRAR or 7-zip to extract it. And then to open the program, I mean, it's pretty simple. Wherever you extracted it, let's go into that folder and run Simulation Craft. To do that, you will see something that looks like this. So to get started, we want to import our character. Let me delete this. You are probably very familiar with this if you've ever used raidbots. Simply do SimC, copy that out, paste it into this window, click import. I'm going to turn something off real quick. Import, and now we're going to simulate. Should take a couple seconds, and then bam, we have results. On this page, there's a lot of information. I will leave it up to you to kind of figure out what's important to you. Typically, what I look at is my damage per execute time, or DPET. Essentially, this is your priority. If you're ever curious as to what button should I press if all of these are available, this will give you a good idea. This simply means every time I press this button, I do this much damage. There's also your breakdown of your damage source, so you can see what is actually doing damage during your parse. There's also more detailed information on the abilities, how many times you executed it, etc., so on and so forth. It'll also give you an idea of your buff up time. So if you're curious about any items or talents that you have that are procs, you can actually see how often they proc. Given a sim here. So let me go over the options that I use for this particular sim. So if you notice, I'm standing in front of the 3-target dummy here in the Knife A Covenant. So I'm basically trying to figure out, what's the best way for me to do 3-target cleave. That's mostly because I do Mythic Plus. If you're a raider, there's obviously a single target dummy over here that you could use, and you would change these options. So I have it set to patchwork. 3 enemies, 5-man heroic, and I have it for 2 minutes. The reason why I do 2 minutes is for this particular character. We have 3 cooldowns. We have True Shot, we have Wild Spirits, and we have Double Tap. True Shot and Wild Spirits are 2-minute cooldowns. Double Tap's a 1 minute. So I want to see how much damage I could do over the course of the rotation using each of those once when Double Tap twice. You can do it however you want. This is just what I do, or one of the things that I do to sim my character. For the fight style, you can hover over the drop down and it'll give you a description of all of them. So if one of these particular fight styles matches more to what it is you are trying to do, then I would recommend using that. Unfortunately, Dungeon Slice from Marksman doesn't work according to the Hunter Discord, so I don't think you can use that. But I think other classes and specs can. The other thing that I like to do is, if you look at our buffs, there's a couple of buffs that we have that when I'm hitting a target dummy, I never have. One is well fed. One is a potion. I'm not popping a potion. I'm not popping a flask, and I'm not using an augment room. So if you're like me and you want to remove those so you can get a better idea if you can actually match the DPS that the sim is showing, what you could do is you can scroll to the bottom, you go to profile, and you want to copy this giant block of text. Okay, so copy this. We're going to go back into SimCraft. Wow, I'm an idiot. We're going to go to import, sorry. Paste it in here, and what you want to do is you want to put some hashtags in here. And what this does is it just tells SimC to not do this. So we've done it for the flask, the augment rune, and the food, and we also want to do it for the potion, and the potion is down here. Back in there. And then we want to re-import and then re-simulate. And we should do a little bit less DPS. It's roughly 600 DPS. You can actually see that by going to the previous sim. So you can see we did 6.6K, and then without our consumables, we do 6K. But when you are practicing your rotation, trying to get it down, this is the number that you should be able to hit on these 3 targets in a 2-minute parse. So you could practice that and try to get as close to that number as possible. Bear in mind, SimC does 10,000 iterations. It's a program. It's a bot. It pretty much is perfect. You are not. If you are, you're not using SimC and you're not watching this video. So try to get as close to it as you can. However, if you find that you're kind of far off and you're kind of lost as to what it is you may be doing wrong, another cool thing about SimCraft is you can actually show you your priority list. So you scroll to the bottom, expand action priority list, go to sample sequence table, and here it's showing you every single button that it's pressing. So it's opening with double tap, then it's steady shotting, so the steady shot again, because we have steady focus talented, and it's going to pop wild spirits, true shot. It's using some items. I don't know what it's using. I'm orc, so it's using blood fury. Then it's popping a multi-shot because I'm not expecting the volley right now. I'm expecting to lock and load. And it's going through and it's doing its thing. So if you're lost, if you're sitting there and you're hitting a dummy, you're like, man, I'm like 1,000 DPS off. It's totally worth your time to look at this priority list just to kind of see what it is that it's doing. And I would trust that this is pretty accurate. Now, obviously, when you're in a dungeon, dungeons aren't patchwork, so just keep that in mind. Personally, I use this so that I can just get used to hitting the buttons and understanding when I need to hit them more naturally. I don't know. So the next thing I want to show is how to simulate different talents. So with raidbots, you would have to come into WoW. You have to open your talent tree. You'd have to click this. You'd have to hit SimC. You'd have to copy it. You'd have to paste it in there, and you'd have to wait. With the standalone app, you don't have to do any of that. You can simply come up here to your talent row, and you can see your talents are numbers, right? So it's 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, right? So 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 3, because I changed this one. So originally this was on lock and load. If I wanted to do volley, I could come to my talents. I could change that 2 to a 3. I could import, and I could simulate. And there. Volley is worth roughly 250 to 300 DPS. Turns out it's a good talent for a 3-target cleave. Who would have guessed? And you can do that with any of the talent rows. So you can go from like careful aim to explosive shot. You see explosive shots worth roughly 100 DPS. You can also see which talents we have up here. You can see I went from careful aim. You can also do this with gear. Gear's a tiny bit trickier. So you see our gear is listed down here. We have a name, we have an ID for the gear, and we have the bonus IDs. The bonus IDs are going to be the stats and then essentially the item level. So, mythic 7, 8, 9, 10, 4, 5, 6, whatever it is. Let's say I wanted to try a different pair of boots. So if I go back to my character, open my bags, I have this pair of boots right here. And what I could do is I can pop up SimC, find these boots, and then I can copy everything from the ID over. Copy that. I can find feet, and then I can paste that in here. Now, one thing you'll notice is that I have the enchant ID because the boots that I'm simming have a enchant. The ones that I was wearing did not. If you're changing this gear in and out, make sure that if the item is supposed to have an enchant, that this string still has the enchant ID in there. So after I make that change, I can import, I can simulate. I should lose some DPS. I did, not a whole lot, but I still lost some. Because those boots were lower item level than the ones that I was wearing. And you could do this with any of the gear. You could even go to Wowhead, and let's say there's a piece of dungeon gear that you're trying to get and you want to see how big of a difference it'll be. You can grab the item ID from there. You can grab the bonus IDs and you can paste that into here. When you're working with this particular import profile, you don't have to worry about the name. This part doesn't matter. The only thing that really matters is everything from the ID over. And again, if the item should have an enchant on it, make sure that you include the enchant ID. And again, you can get all that stuff from Wowhead. The final thing that I wanted to show is how to do stat weights, because I know stat weights is a very, very popular thing. Actually, before I do stat weights, if you did want to sim with your consumables, let's say you're trying to figure out which potion is actually the best, make sure that you remove the hashtag from here, or from the food, or from the augment rune, whatever it is that you're doing. And then you can change what it is that you're using. You can also do it with food, right? So by default, SimC uses the feast. The feast is never the best. What you'll want to do is put the name of the food that you use. Make sure that you don't use spaces and that you use underscores for each of the spaces. Same thing with the potion and flask. So if you wanted to use them, you could change which one you're using up here and just make sure you remove the hashtag down here. So finally, stat weights. Very popular thing, very easy to do. So you simply go to the scaling tab, you enable scaling, and down here at the bottom, you simply click which stat weights you want to generate. For me, I do agi, the 4 tertiary, and then, well, these aren't tertiary, these are secondaries. I'm an idiot. And then weapon DPS, I already know that weapon DPS is by far the best thing for a hunter weapon, so I'm going to uncheck it for now just so it goes a little quicker. And now I'm going to simulate. Now this sim will take a little longer because it has to sim each of the iterations for each of these stats. And if you're curious, the reason why you would sim agility is because you want to know how important eye level is. If you have, let's say you have an item level 200 piece versus an item level 207, the 200 piece has perfect secondary stats, but the 207 doesn't. You want to know if the agi on that 207 is going to make up for the secondary stats. So unless you're playing a class that has breakpoints, which I don't know if there are any anymore, maybe dot classes have breakpoints like affliction locks or something like that. You want to see how big agility is in your stat weighting. So once the sim is done, you're going to be presented with the screen. And you're going to have this new section right here in the middle that is going to show you your stat weights. And it tells you it's agi, then crit, mastery, and haste is approximately equal to verse. This is for my character. I have a very mastery heavy character. I think I have like 580 mastery. I have a lot of verse as well. I don't have enough crit. I think crit might be my lowest. Oh, actually, haste is my lowest, and then crit's my lowest. But anyway, this changes based on the gear you're wearing. And you also get your pawn import string. So you can simply copy this. Pawn, scale, import, control V. Okay, here are your stat weights. So that's it. That's Simulation Craft. I hope you find this useful. I use this a lot when I'm trying to figure out, what talents to use. Specifically, because talents are very difficult to quantify. For example, you'll find that on 3-target cleave, steady focus provides a very minimal DPS increase over streamline, but it's much easier to play streamline. So I would recommend streamline. However, if you were to switch this to a single target fight, you'll notice that steady focus is quite a bit better. Things like that. Obviously, if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the YouTube comments. If you know me, feel free to reach out to me. I will do my best to answer them. If I know the answer, I'm not an expert. I'm probably a novice at this. But I know it's enough to get started. Thanks for watching, and good luck.